The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
And welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the HighLowSports podcast Tier Tuesday segment, where we take something in the world of sports and we decide to break it into tiers and have a little bit of fun with it. It is DJ, joined as always by my co-host Kelsey. And you know what, Kelsey? This one we're gonna have a little bit of fun with because we're going after it. We're going after everybody watching this one. We're going after the NFL fan bases today, and we're gonna break them into some fun tiers.
Yeah, we're not even just going to touch on a little bit of emotion. We're going to touch on all of the emotion that fan bases will elicit out of not just their own fans, but fans of other teams and those who like to consider ourselves somewhat neutral fans for the most part throughout the season. But yeah, no, this is going to be very fun. And look, guys, if you don't like it, maybe take it up with the rest of your fan bases. But if you do like it, join in on the fun and let us know what fan bases you hate in the comments as well, or what you feel they belong in the comments, because we do have quite a few different tiers to rank these in. So I'm pretty excited about this one. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. We're going to just leap right into it here as we take a look at the tiers. We're going to start at the top now. We got mostly solid with a few exceptions because no fan base out there is perfect no matter what they tell you. Some of them are annoying, but overall a pretty good group in the same way. Then we got the fanatics for good and for worse. Then we pity them for all they know is pain. You can't really hate them, but you can't really like them because it is just pure pain. Kind of toxic. They got some work to do. Very toxic. Seriously, are you a fan or a hater? And then so obnoxious, you dislike players you normally wouldn't because of how obnoxious that fan base is for no other reason. And that's going to lead us right now. We got 32 to pick from. We're going to try and cruise through these as quick as possible. Kelsey, it's your turn to lead the way. And what better way to start with an America's team, the Dallas Cowboys?
All right, first of all, we're going to cut out that America's team part right there. Get it out of here. It's not America's team, ladies and gentlemen. This goes in the very bottom tier. This is so obnoxious. You just like players you normally wouldn't because of them. And that goes for me too. I am a Cowboys fan. I don't even like some of the players on the team I'm a fan of because of all of the crazy fans that exist as as Cowboys fans, or who claim to be Cowboys fans. So I can't take it. So yeah, no, so obnoxious. You dislike players you normally wouldn't because of them. That's Cowboys fans. I think they might be some of the worst in the NFL. Even like as a Cowboys fan, I think it's comfortable to say that.
You know, I think that's fair, and I think most of them probably agree. They probably go into one of those categories as well. So you know what, for the most non-Cowboys fans agree. Most Cowboys fans are riding right now. But you know what? I think that's a pretty good spot for them. That's going to lead us now to another team with blue and white color. Basically, at the Indianapolis Colts, and we're going to go ahead and drop them into the fanatics category because really, truthfully, they haven't had a whole lot to be too toxic about until recently. But at the same time, you can't put them in like the great overall group or anything like that. They're nothing quite there, but there's not quite enough to make them hate them besides the owners. But the owner's not indicative of the fan base. So we're going to put them in just the fanatics category. Not too bad, but not exactly great either.
Yeah, I like that for the Colts. I mean, it makes sense. There's not the Colt Indianapolis fans. They seem to just kind of stick themselves. They're Midwesterners, so at the end of the day, they're not the worst. They're not the best. They're just kind of there. But that's going to take us to the Saints, who can and will be the worst. They are very toxic. Saints fans, if you have never heard the term "who dat," don't worry. Just get around New Orleans Saints fans, and you will hear it, and it will echo in your ears for eternity. It is the worst saying in the world, and there's no getting over it. It is absolutely awful. Saints fans, they have little to cheer for in their career, in their entire history, but God forbid they will cheer for it and let you know about it and then talk all the trash in the world about their team, even though they suck. So it's just what it is. Very toxic fans, the Saints fans. Enjoy New Orleans when I go down there, but you know what? I don't stay there for very long, that's for sure.
All you have to bring up is Bounty Gate in 2009, and then you set off a whole different set of circumstances, or that 2019 or 2018 NFC Championship game as well. So if you're looking for a fight, those are two things you could definitely bring up with them.
And most of them don't even know who Aaron Brooks ever was or who Archie Manning actually is. They think you're talking about Arch Manning, the player currently at Texas.
Hey, that's fair as well. That's going to take us now next to the Washington used-to-be football team, now Commanders, might be changing their name again. And for that and all the Dan Snyder things, I pity them for all they really know is pain. They had some good moments in the past, but most of the people that are watching this didn't live during those times. They had to live through the Dan Snyder era. They had to live through the Kirk Cousins RG3 fiasco era. They've had to live through 3 different name changes now. We're going to put them in all they know is pain because it's been rough for the Commanders. And you know what? Hopefully with Josh Harris taking over, we'll see. It can't get any worse, right? Dan Snyder's out of there. The fan base has known a lot of pain. So I'm going to put them right here because I don't feel like they're the worst of the NFC East fan bases, let alone ones that you have to worry about too much.
No, I think we've already covered one of the worst of the NFC East fan bases. But yeah, no, the Washington football team fan base been through a lot of BS. Maybe sometimes they are a little toxic when they're winning, but they're not winning, so you don't have to worry about that right now. But speaking of kind of toxic, that's going to take us to the San Francisco 49ers fan base. DJ, can you go and scroll up on this one just above the Colts here? I'm curious to see. Some of them are annoying, but overall a good group is exactly where I think this 49ers fan base needs to go because overwhelmingly lately they have not been that bad. Honestly, I don't mind Niners fans as much as I used to. Now, if we were talking early 2000s, late 90s, forget about it. That team goes into very toxic or kind of toxic area. But right now, they're kind of getting over a bunch of losses. They don't even know what their quarterback's doing. They have Sam Darnold potentially starting. Who knows? Brock Purdy is a guy you're just kind of like rooting for. So the fans are behind him, and you kind of love that. So yeah, I'm going to go with some of them are annoying, but overall, it's a pretty good group for San Francisco fans. And I say that knowing full well my family will give me crap because I've talked so much trash about the 49ers fan base before.
My biggest issue with them has always been how overpowered they were in Madden from 2011 to 2014 with Patrick Wilson, Navarro Bowman, and squad. That's my only gripe with them is that team, they were absolutely broken to where all the Madden leagues was 49ers versus 49ers on those Madden championship leagues. That's my biggest gripe with them. And you could even say that about recent times, but that's going to now take us next on the list. We got the Chicago Bears. And you know what? We're going to go and kind of stick with the same thing. I could have put them in, pity them for all they know is pain. That's a really good spot for them, but there's not too many Bears fans out there that I could think of where it's like really most of the Bears fans, they've only known pain, so they're pretty relaxed and mellow, but overall they've been a pretty good group. So I'm going to give the Bears the benefit of the doubt here. They probably should go and pity them, but they don't ask for pity, I guess. They don't make a big deal about it. I don't hear about the Super Bowl shuffle every 4 minutes like you hear with Who Dat. So we'll put them in overall a pretty good group.
Yeah, I like that for the Bears. I think that's a very fitting place for them. I don't really Bears fans don't bother me as much as a lot of other fan bases do. And you're right, we don't hear about the Super Bowl shuffle every 5 seconds. That's important. But speaking of the pity you just mentioned that you must feel, we're gonna go Cincinnati Bengals. Pity them for all they know is pain, because it's true that team has only known nothing but pain as fans, and I just don't think there's anything really else to say right now. Obviously, now you got Joe Burrow in town. It's not bad still. Even with Joe Burrow out, you guys went to a Super Bowl and you guys still weren't bad. So it's you're maybe 2 years away from being mostly solid with a few exceptions, but right now I still pity you guys as a whole for the fan base. There's been a lot they've been through. So right now, pity them for all they know is pain.
Interesting. Like you said, they are very close to climbing up that gap, which that's going to take us now to the Buffalo Bills, who very easily could go in pity with those 4 Super Bowls. But I think we're going to have our first debut at the mostly solid with a few exceptions. Even when they have been winning the last few years, there's been the few exceptions that are annoying, but for the most part, they're not like overtaking socials or anything like that and being obnoxious. Some analysts, maybe a little bit, but the fan base themselves, not too bad for the most part. And I still won't forget like the donations that they did for those last couple of years too, like Josh Allen's charity situation. Saw what they went through with DeMar Hamlin as well. So, you know what? We're going to say they're mostly solid with a few exceptions. They have teetered a little bit recently. With success comes a little bit of bandwagon, which unfortunately shakes the fan base as a whole. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. We're going to put them in mostly solid with a few exceptions.
Yeah, I like that for the Bills. That just makes sense. It's not, they're not bad. And I don't know if there's anybody that has anything bad to say about Bills fans regularly. I mean, we all kind of want to jump through tables at the end of the day. So they actually do it. So it's hard to not be like, I support that.
It's hard for them to be angry fans when they're dealing with table-enforced concussions, I guess, every week. So you know what? Maybe they got their own things to work through.
Yeah. So that's going to take us to the Cleveland Browns. You know, like the Bengals, I could put them and pity them for all they know is pain. They've had their team leave. They've known nothing but losing. They've had a winless season. They had a parade for said winless season. But then Deshaun Watson, Baker Mayfield happened, and that got pretty toxic. So I could go very toxic along with the Saints. But you know what? I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to give them benefit of doubt. They're going to be our first kind of toxic team because they could go in either gap here. There's a lot of pity there, but at the same time, there's a lot of toxic fans for the Browns. And yeah, I mean, I don't really have a choice but to put them in kind of toxic. And maybe it's because now that I live in the area, it's a whole different story. Maybe I'm experiencing them a lot more. But yeah, they're just right now. It's hard to not give them kind of toxic. They seem to be not really barking up the right trees, if you will.
I'd agree with you on that one. I think up until like the last 2 years with the battles over Baker Mayfield, the Deshaun Watson scenario, and all of that too, they probably would have been pity them for all they know is pain, because literally all they know is pain. But then recently with the wars that have come with the recent moves, I think a little toxic in there, just a little bit. Could go down, could go up. We'll have to wait and see. But there's a lot going on there. There's a lot to unpack with that one. So now we're just going to move on from that one and go to next. We got the Denver Broncos, and they're gonna join them in that tier of kind of toxic as well. That fan base can get really loud, really obnoxious, and it's whenever they're winning too. When they lose, they're usually fine. It's when they're very sore winners sometimes. So we're gonna put them in kind of toxic. Case in point, just look at what happened after the Nuggets won the finals. We still are hearing about it. A lot of those fans transfer right over to Denver, and some of them even try to claim Peyton Manning as a Denver superhero after 4 years. So as great as he was, so we're gonna put them in kind of toxic. They're not the problem, but they're definitely not a solution.
Yeah, yes. There's a lot I can say about the Broncos fans, but you know what? I think that's a solid place for them. But that's going to take us to the Buccaneers, and I'm going to put these guys right next to the Colts. I think they're fanatics. To me, Buccaneers fans, up until recently, haven't had a lot to cheer from them. I mean, you date back to 2002 before that. So there was a whole lot of years of not hearing anything from Bucs fans, yet they still filled the stadium. And again, this team was once winless in those creamsicles, and yet they still love the creamsicle jerseys. So let's not forget they are fanatics over over their team and the support they provide. They gave Muscle Hamster his nickname. They gave him his own shirt at the time he was there. So yeah, I love the Bucs fans just because they seem to come out in droves, no matter how good or bad the team is. There's been some really dry seasons there, and some really fun seasons. Plus, they have probably one of the coolest ships they get to go play on in their stadium. So that's actually really cool as well. But yeah, give me fanatics here for the Buccaneers.
All right, I like it. That's also now to take us into the Cardinals, who I think there's only one category for them at this point, and you got to pity them for all they know is pain. I mean, the one time they had success, they lost the Super Bowl by 30 seconds and a toe tap from Santonio Holmes in the back of the end zone. Ever since then, your starting quarterbacks have been injured. You've been up and down, but you haven't quite got the first overall pick. Besides the one time you did and you replaced it, you drafted him, and now he's hurt. And now they're already talking about getting rid of him, and they're already in front place for the first overall pick next year. There hasn't been a lot to cheer for in Arizona in the desert, minus that one magical season with Kurt Warner and Larry Fitzgerald, really. So all they know is pain for the most part.
Yeah, that's a fitting place for him, to say the least. Which is going to take us to another franchise that knows a whole lot about pity and a whole lot about pain. But I don't know if I'm going to take him there. I really don't know what I'm going to do with this. This is a really hard pick for me. Because if we talk about at home, well, this fan base doesn't really ever show up. You might be saying, seriously, are you a fan or are you a hater? But on away games, we've seen it in our own right. They might have more fans in away games than they do in their home games. So there are fans that are fanatics there. But here's the thing. Home field advantage is supposed to be a thing in the NFL. So I'm going, seriously, are you a fan or are you a hater? I'm going to be harsh on this one because Chargers fans, you don't exist when you matter. And that's the part that prevents you from being a fanatic, is when you matter, where are you? The answer is never there. So yeah, I'm going to go, seriously, are you a fan or a hater? Because I just don't know with a lot of Chargers fans. I know that's being harsh. I could honestly probably slide them all the way up to some of them are annoying, but overall a good group. But I'm going to be harsh on this because I feel like it's disrespectful that they can't even fill out their own stadium.
I will say, too, maybe if they never moved from San Diego, maybe they're up there. But I think relocating them for no reason whatsoever kind of threw the fan base for a bit of a loop there. So it's a tough one for them. But
wholeheartedly agree.
Next, we got the Kansas City Chiefs, who for the longest time could have been up here in one of these top two tiers. But unfortunately, that bandwagon's got real heavy, so I'm demoting them down to fanatics. A lot of the OG fans, awesome people. They've waited, 50 years between Super Bowls? The biggest postseason loss and the biggest comeback against them in NFL playoff history at the time. I think it still stands, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, still
they deserve to be a little bit higher, but we're going to stick them in fanatics because, unfortunately, recently with this amount of success comes an obnoxious bandwagon, which has brought it down just a little bit. So the Quefs can go into the fanatics for now. They can easily go right back up, though. We'll have to wait and see. Or they could pity, or they could drop real quick.
Yeah, by the way, we've actually had a long-time Chiefs fan on the show. If you guys don't remember that interview, fantastic interview. Go back into the archives here for HighLowSports here on YouTube. You'll be able to check it out. But yeah, that was look, Chiefs, one of those teams was a hard team to hate for a long time. Now it's like, all right, well, we can hate you now. It's okay. But that's going to move us on to the Dolphins. And I think this has to go in the same spot is fanatics, because these guys are fanatical. There are some that you're just like, wow, all right, you're too much. Then there are some that really, fit the bill, and they still fill up that stadium. They fill up Hard Rock when it was with awning, without awning, with coverage, without coverage, before it was a square, back when it was a baseball stadium half the time. They've still filled out their stadium every year, whether Dan Marino's there or not. And you know what? There's been some very dry years there as well, just like the Bucs. They still show up, even if cars are getting lit on fire outside because it's so hot. It's absolutely crazy to see, but you know what? The Dolphins, to me, they get the fanatics because, I mean, do or die. They're always there, but there are still a lot that you don't like.
Especially when every single year the old 72 team has to light up cigars every time the winless streak goes another year. But that's neither here nor there. That's going to now take us to the Atlanta Falcons, who this category might as well just been named after them. I pity them for all they know is pain. The Super Bowls, the NFC Championship games, like, come on, they've been through it all right now. Like, is there really much else to say? Their history with franchise quarterbacks, talk about the Michael Vick situation as well. Multiple Super Bowl losses, including the biggest one in history. This category was made for them. The other three are just visiting right now. This is a Falcon. This is a Falcons tier.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I don't think there's no better place for the Falcons than that. But that'll take us to another NFC East team, and of course I get them, and it's those darn Eagles. And ladies and gentlemen, we have our second entry into the so obnoxious you dislike players you normally wouldn't because of them. And yes, I am talking about the Eagles fans. We all know them. We all don't like them. Sorry, Jared. Love you to death, bud, but you're an Eagles fan. Cannot love you when it comes to that. Look, they are what they are, and it's okay because right next to you is a division rival that is just as bad. And equally together, you make two really terribly obnoxious fan bases. Plus, you threw snowballs at Santa Claus. Like, that just by itself deserves its own category. Like, it should be, we probably should just put in, you threw snowballs at Santa Claus, forever naughty. Like, that might be its own separate list for the Eagles. But yeah, no, I mean, Eagles, Cowboys right next to each other, as they deserve to be at the very bottom of this list for fan bases because they're both atrocious.
I'm really curious if we end up with anybody else on that list too. We'll have to wait and see how we rank, but right now it is fitting having those two right there. They might just have to say that we might have to make another category called the others. That just those two deserve each other. But speaking of the NFC East, we're going to round out the NFC East with the New York Football Giants, who, you know what? Some of them are a little annoying, but overall, I'm going to say they're a pretty good group because you don't hear much about them. Even when they were winning Super Bowls, you didn't really hear too much about them. They weren't too terribly obnoxious. The worst thing was the dumb people trying to say Eli Manning was a Hall of Famer for 2 postseason runs. And most of them weren't even really Giants fans. And
nope.
There's a few of them right now that might think Daniel Jones is the Messiah after throwing a career-high 15 touchdowns in a season. But overall, I don't mind Giants fans. There's not too much to worry about. They've dealt a lot of pain, then random peaks, and then a bunch of valleys in between. So, you know what? We'll put them right there. Even going back throughout the years, there haven't been too many times when you look at the Giants like, really? So there's some of them. They're the annoying ones, but they're overall pretty good group.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that because we were talking this weekend at the Fantasy Football Expo with Brian from the Injured List and the Injured List podcast, and he was talking about, as he's a Giants fan, he's like, most Giants fans during those quiet years, they stay really quiet and then they just pop up out of nowhere like, yay, Giants, and then they disappear again. That's exactly true. It is exactly how I feel about Giants fans. They don't pop up until they're winning, and then they're like, all right, well, we know you're not going to win forever, so you're there. Thank you. Move on. Like, that's how I feel about Giants.
Exactly. Well, next you got your favorite team from Jacksonville, Florida, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Man, all right, I'm going to go kind of toxic. And these guys, these guys are a tough one for me because, I mean, look, Jaguars fans, again, they can be pretty good. They know a lot of nothing but pity. But at the same time, made some runs in the playoffs, and yet the whole time, all I hear about is how great the Jaguars are, how they're going to go undefeated every season. And yet, like, they're honestly borderline Cowboys fans that just never made the jump to becoming a Cowboys fan. It's just as bad. I mean, you were just glad that Jaguars became a team in '96, so you jumped onto that bandwagon. You haven't looked back, is what it feels like. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really like a lot of Jaguars fans, and I've talked a lot of trash about their stadium too. So you got to be kind of toxic to be able to walk up and down TIAA Stadium to get to the upper deck, and then still have the audacity to talk trash after you get up there. So I'm gonna give them some kind of toxic treatment here.
Interesting. Next, we got the New York Football Jets, and take everything I said about the Falcons and copy and paste it here. This tier is built for both of them. They have known nothing but pain since before everybody watching this show was born. So, you know what? They're going to go right and pity them for all they know is pain. Not a whole lot else to say there. But between Rex Ryan and his foot thing, Mark Sanchez, going all the way back to Joe Namath, it's been a rough ride for the Jets for the most part.
Geno Smith having his,
there's a reason he's back.
Yeah. Matt from Corner Booth would have a lot of agreements in that one, I imagine. But that's going to take us to the Lions. And can we get a third time repeat here for pity them for all they know is pain is made for this team? You could also almost put them in fanatics as well. Also, you'd probably side them up even higher. But I think pity them for all they know is pain is pretty simple and straightforward in that NFC North. They just can never really get over the hump. And again, another team who's known a whole lot of losses in their career and just still show up somehow.
That's fair. And next we got the Green Bay Packers, and they're going to go in kind of toxic. They're just because every single one of them has to be like, I'm the owner of the team, if they were one of those thousands of people that quote unquote bought a share. And so, you know what? They get kind of toxic for that alone. Plus the amount of times that we have to hear about they own the most championships, even though most of them were from the Cold War era. We're not dealing with that right now. So we're going to go and leave them at kind of toxic. They're not overall terrible, but some of them need to get hit upside the head with a cheese chunk.
Yeah, I think that's valid. I don't think I need to pile onto the Packers. They do enough piling on themselves. That's going to take us to the Panthers, and I don't think there's anything wrong with Panthers. I'm going to go all the way to the top here and go one below two. Some of them are kind of annoying, but overwhelmingly not bad. Is kind of where I'm at here. But overall, a good group. You could honestly say mostly solid with few exceptions, but there are a lot of exceptions in Carolina still. So yeah, some of them are annoying, but overall a really good group. Anybody who's traveled to that stadium and played as an opposing team, you know, as a fan, you can honestly say they're pretty welcoming, but you still get some trash talk because they're still in the SEC territory. So you get a little bit of that SEC arg against it.
Next, that's going to take us to the New England Patriots, who this could just be the New England Tom Brady's at this point. And because of the Tom Brady era, they go to very toxic because the amount of times you have to hear about those damn Super Bowls, it's going to be 20 years from now. We're still going to be hearing about it. They don't go 1 year and it's the refs are out to get us. We were screwed. No, they're going in very toxic. And the only reason they're not really any lower is because, well, they don't quite hit that obnoxious level as those other two. We clearly know they're fans, not haters. The point is their fanness makes me want to hate them. So we're going to go with very toxic for the Patriots and well earned.
They're Boston fans. I don't think I need to say much more than they're Boston fans. We all know how Boston sports. If you're not a Bostonite, it doesn't work for the rest of us. You can't just be that type of a fan and it be okay with everybody else in the world. It doesn't exist. So that's going to take us to another interesting fan base, to say the least. Oh man, I'm probably gonna. Man, why am I putting guys? So all these bottom three are me. So, let's make a bottom four. Let's go seriously. Are you a fan or a hater for the Raiders? Because I don't even know anymore if the black hole's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know. There's been so many fights at Raiders games now between Raiders fans and Raiders fans and Raiders fans and opposing fans and Raiders fans and their own family members. I don't even know if they're a fan of what's on the field or if they're hating what's on the field anymore. I just know that it's kind of obnoxious to watch.
That's fair, and that's both the Vegas and the Oakland fans. You could just lump them both into one, and it kind of plays along perfectly. So next we got the Los Angeles Rams, and we're going to put them in this is a tough one because they have more fans than the Chargers, but at the same time, it's very up in the air. So we're going to put them in the same area of serious are you a fan or a hater, because they showed out real great for that Super Bowl run, but last year was awfully quiet. So we're going to go ahead and put the
I
Rams
noticed
in the series. Are you a fan or a hater?
I noticed a trend with those three teams right there. Just so
Reckless
happened to be
move.
yeah, exactly. Just so happened to be the three that have moved the most recently. Go figure, right?
Granted, the middle one makes sense. I will give him credit for that. And even the Rams one made a little bit of sense. It's that first one that I have a problem with, but I digress. Anyway, moving on now. You got the Baltimore Ravens, also formerly known as the Browns, which also the Baltimore Colts. So speaking of a lot of moves.
Yeah, I'm gonna go up to the top here. I'm gonna put them in mostly solid with a few exceptions. I don't think there's a single Ravens fan in the world that I've ever had a problem with. And that's saying something because I've known a lot of Ravens fans, but like I really just don't mind them. They don't even during their heyday. It was never like, oh, there's that and the other. Like, it was like, well, we're still the Ravens. Like at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know. I've never really hated the Ravens fans. I've never really had a problem with them at all. So I can't really say that any of them are annoying. So yeah, I'm gonna go mostly solid with few exceptions.
You know what? Just ask him about Ray Lewis's suit. Then you might get a few varied answers. Then you might change your tune a little bit there. But that's neither here nor there. Next,
On the
we got
field, they're pretty good. Game day wise.
We got the Seattle Seahawks, and they're going to go with kind of toxic exclusively based on the Legion of Boom run. For the most part, they are fine. But that Legion of Boom run, if you lived in the Pacific Northwest, you were favored to win the Super Bowl at like -150. And they still like, everyone hates us, underdog, blah, blah, blah. The closest team to you was 2 days away. So, of course, you're a little bit overlooked. You were the favorite. The Legion of Boom years is the only reason you're kind of toxic. Otherwise, you'd be in Fanatics. But that 4-year gap exclusively alone puts you down here despite your other 40 plus years of existence.
Yes. I'm glad you actually said that because the Fanatics is where I would put them normally, but you're exactly right. Legion of Boom, the 12th man, this era has been kind of annoying.
Absolutely. And you get the fun one here with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, boy. So not all of the ones at the bottom of this list are still mine, thankfully. But I'm going to add another one to the list. I'm going a bottom 5 out of the bottom 6. And this one's going in the so obnoxious. You dislike players you normally wouldn't because of them. And yes, we did do it.
If you didn't.
We did a tailgate in Pittsburgh. We had a lot of cool people we met in Pittsburgh. There were a lot of great fans. I've been on a Pittsburgh Steelers podcast as a guest commentator about it. But you know what? It's not their everyday fans, but they're when you're in the stadium and you're wearing an opposing fan's gear, or you just happen to bring up the fact that you're a Cowboys fan and you're talking to a Steelers fan, God forbid they have to not mention the Immaculate Catch or anything else. They live in the Franco Harris days, mind you. Love Franco Harris. But they live in the past more than any other franchise, not named the Cowboys at this point in time. And I think this is just one of the most obnoxious fan bases I've ever dealt with. And there's a lot of players I would love to love that played that I just can't. Like they went to the Steelers, and I'm just like, nope, sorry. I would love to love T.J. Watt like I'd love his brother. But I'm sorry, can't do it. You're a Steeler.
Granted, there are some players that played for the Steelers that it makes it much easier. That I was already going to hate them. It just makes it that much easier. Presumably ones that were number 7, for example. But I think that is a perfect addition to that final tier. We'll see if anyone else adds in there. But right now, that's a pretty solid looking list. And next, that's going to take us to the Houston Texans, who I kind of got to pity them for all they know is pain. They're in the same boat as the Cardinals. Since they came into existence, they had the number 1 overall pick, got him destroyed. Yeah, J.J. Watt, a perennial Hall of Fame player, broke in and out. You didn't really get anything out of it. You had the Deshaun Watson situation they went through. They've been through a lot, and they've only been around for 21 years. Like if someone was born the year that they came into existence, they can just barely legally drink now, and they've seen so much. So I pity the Texans a little bit.
Hey, I hope the Texans get better because now they're legal age to drink. Look, I want to hug every Texans fan I meet, Hector included. I'm just like, I'm sorry, man. This is rough sledding for you guys. So yeah, definitely pity them is where a perfect fit is. Which will take us to the Titans. Honestly, they're fanatics. The Titans fans are really fanatics. I don't really hate Titans fans. I don't really love Titans fans. The worst thing they do is yell "tighten up" occasionally. Like honestly, the Titans. The only bad thing about the Titans is the stuff on the field, and that's not fan base. You can't. It's not on the fans. It's just what it is with the Titans. Like Nashville just doesn't really seem to care. as much as many other cities do about their football team. And so the Titans are just kind of there. Never really hated any Titans players because of their fans. Never really had any issues again, but they're fanatics. Don't really pity them because they have had success before. So it's not like I pity them at all. But yeah, I think fanatics is a good place to put it there.
That's now going to take us for the last one, the Minnesota Vikings, who would be at the very top here. I would put them in solid with mostly a few exceptions. But the fact that that skull BS is so darn annoying, I'm putting them as some of them are annoying, but overall a good group. Because that skull, no, that prevents you from being number one as it is. So you get to go into the second tier just by.
I love that celebration.
Well, you know what? You could put them there next time, but they're not going all the way up there because for the most part, you don't really have an opinion on them, which is a good thing about a fan base.
Yeah.
Usually when they're the best is you don't think of them as obnoxious. You don't know about them throwing snowballs at Santa. They don't call themselves weed-end boys. They're good there. So they can go towards the top in this regard.
Yeah. I mean, mostly all Vikings fans I know just get drunk and watch football. So hard to hate on guys like that. They eat a lot of cheese. It's kind of what they are. But yeah, I mean, I get the point of hating the skull thing. It's actually an Icelandic cheer. So I don't really like that idea of like an American football team come up with your own thing. Like don't steal it from another country. So I get it. But yeah, I don't mind it. I honestly don't mind any Vikings fans at all whatsoever. I get this one though. Because some of them, I can see some of them being annoying.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is what we have
for our Kirk Cousins lovers.
This is what we have for the tiers of the NFL fan bases. Let us know down below what you think, if where your team ranked at, and if you think we got any of them blatantly wrong. And if your team didn't go somewhere you like, we're sorry. You could definitely let us know why you think we should move them, and we can consider it. But that's going to do it for this week's edition of Tier Tuesday. We appreciate y'all for tuning in, and we'll see you all for the podcast at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday.